Tensions between Ukraine and Russia are mounting. Now the Russian foreign minister is also threatening a military reaction. The recovery of the Crimea is a direct threat to the Kremlin. In light of the tension on the Ukrainian-Russian border, Russia has warned against a return to a nightmare scenario of a military confrontation. At an OSCE meeting in Stockholm on Thursday, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov accused NATO of bringing its military infrastructure closer to the Russian borders. Russian President Vladimir Putin on Wednesday called for the West to clearly reject any further eastwards expansion of NATO. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov had previously described Ukraine's efforts to regain the Crimean Peninsula as a threat. He said, "We see this as a direct threat addressed to Russia," he told that to reporters in Moscow on Thursday. In view of a massive deployment of Russian forces on the border with Ukraine, the USA and other Western countries fear that Russia could launch a military strike. Moscow rejects this. In return, the Kremlin accuses Ukraine of letting the West arm itself with military equipment and denounces NATO military maneuvers near the Russian borders. In Stockholm, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken renewed his criticism of Russia's approach to the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. The US is deeply concerned about evidence that Russia has made plans for further significant aggressive steps against Ukraine, Blinken said at the OSCE Foreign Ministers meeting. Blinken had already made a very similar statement to NATO the day before. "We call on Russia to respect the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine," he said. "A recent buildup of troops must be reversed. The promises of the Minsk agreement, including a ceasefire, must be kept. Diplomacy is the only responsible way to resolve this crisis," said US President Joe Biden's chief diplomat, "and we are fully ready to support this." The OSCE, based in Vienna, includes a total of 57 countries from Europe, North America, and Central Asia, including the USA and Russia. On the sidelines of the two-day meeting of foreign ministers in Stockholm, it was planned that their foreign ministers Blinken and Sergei Lavrov also meet for bilateral talks. Meanwhile, Russia has proposed a summit with the United States. The Kremlin is hoping for a meeting between President Vladimir Putin and US President Joe Biden in the coming days. Russian news agencies quoted Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov on Thursday. A specific date has not yet been agreed. "But contact is very necessary, our problems multiply," he said. Ryabkov described the situation in Europe as very alarming. Before that, Russia was open to talks involving the United States in the Ukraine conflict. "We have an interest in pooling efforts to find a solution to the Ukraine crisis," said Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov at the start of a meeting with his US colleague Blinken. "Our American colleagues didn't just say once that they wanted to help," he said. "Russia is ready for this." So far, Russia had always emphasized that the previous format was sufficient. So far, only France and Germany mediate in the conflict between Ukraine and Russia in the so-called Normandy format. However, Russia does not see itself as a part of the conflict. Russia has no interest in conflicts, Lavrov stressed on the sidelines of the meeting. In the midst of tensions between Ukraine and Russia, the Russian Domestic Intelligence Service, the FSB, reportedly arrested 3 Ukrainian spies. One of the agents was picked up with 2 improvised explosive devices, the FSB said on Thursday. It remained unclear where and when the alleged spies were arrested. The other 2 agents had arrived in Russia to gather information and to take photos and videos of facilities of strategic importance and transport infrastructures. According to the FSB, weapons and personal protective equipment were found in the vehicle of the 2. The 2 men confessed that they were recruited by the Ukrainian Secret Service SBU for a reward of $10,000, the FSB said. Russia regularly reports arrests of people labeled as spies or saboteurs who are supposed to work for Ukraine. The already tense situation between Ukraine and Russia is currently worsened due to reports of a Russian troop development near the Ukrainian border, as I said. Ukraine now puts the number of Russian soldiers on the border at 115,000. The Kremlin in turn recently accused Ukraine of having transferred more than 120,000 soldiers to the border to the pro-Russian separatist regions of Donetsk and Luhansk. The developments bring back bad memories of 2014. At that time, Russia had annexed the Crimean Peninsula and started supporting separatists in eastern Ukraine, which is still ongoing. There are always battles there. And I'll see you in my next video. Bis gleich.